Arsenal and Manchester City have many things in common. They're both really good, they play in a similar style, the managers are best friends. And Arteta used to work for Guardiola at Man City. He knows all the way they play, but there's one specific thing both teams do on the pitch that is helping them fly at the table when they score their goals, and it is the cutback. There's how many cutbacks Arsenal make. They score 5, Man City have made this many cutbacks, they scored 10. What on earth is a cutback? What's a cutback goal? Well, it first started in the roundabout Pro Evo 5 when you could play with your friends at university and cut the ball back into the box. I'll show you what I mean. In fact, loads of teams have been doing this for many years, right? So a cutback goal is making use of the space in the box you want to be able to score a goal from. Obviously, you want to score around about here. That's the most likely place you're going to score a goal from. Now, a cross into the box is just a hook cross like this. That's what you're going to get. A cutback is when you get to somewhere like this, really close to the goal, and you cut it across the goal. So rather than going to this front crossing area in the 6-yard box, which is where a goalkeeper could come and claim it or something like that, a cutback is when you get to the line like this, and then you cut it back. You can be from here, it can be from here, it can be anywhere in the box. As long as the ball goes backwards in the box, that's what the cutback is. So let's look at how they do it and why they do it, right? So if you have Arsenal in their 4-3-3 or pushing up, we put Xhaka and Odegaard here. So we give Saka the ball, right? Now, Nketiah is the central striking threat. So what they want to do, clearly any football team wants to do, is get the ball into this sort of area so they can score goals. Now, if Saka gets the ball here, and say we give him an overlapper from Ben White, if Saka's here as a defender with him, manages to feed him Ben White, and White gets here, if he hooks the ball into the box, this area here, there's obviously a few things that can go wrong. First of all, from this area, the goalie can catch the ball, eliminating it from being a chance at all, just kind of ruins that. Also, White will get here, and the defender will try and block that front post cross, because this specific bit, I'm going to draw it here, that is actually the most dangerous bit. This all is very good, that's the real high value bit, you can't leave that space free. So they try and block it, the goalie will come and try and claim it, the fullback will try and block the cross that goes low, so if this ball goes in low here, this defender's in the way. The centre backs, obviously, if you're getting like this, if a striker's trying to get back, they'll go with them to try and block this. They're trying to block this exact path of the pass, because this is so dangerous. And what you'll get is strikers will try and make clever runs in normal teams. Say Nketiah might try and make a run around his man like this, like a curved run. Let's try and curve it like that to try and get at the near post. If you get to the near post, you might get a shot in there. Or you can try and make like a curved run so he goes round his man to the back post with better arrows than that. But this is when Nketiah gets to the back post, the ball might come in and you get there. So defenders want to block this, and that's why they get back, to block this thing like that. Makes perfect sense, right? But naturally, by doing that, what you're doing is creating depth between the last line of defense and the second line of defense, which is the midfield. So we pull back the midfield now. You'll generally only ever see teams do this. They'll have a 4, then a 3. So if you've got Nketiah pushing the back line back to avoid this pass, the natural thing to do then is have someone like Odegaard or Xhaka turn up in these spaces, because the space is between the lines. And so if you can get the ball here, you then, by pulling these guys away, leave yourself someone like Odegaard, loads of space to shoot and score. The cutback is the way you do it, by tricking the defense. Basically, everyone is always going to go this way to block it. They're always going to go back towards the line, and it creates space between them, and that's where the shots come from. And we see how much focus Arsenal put on it just looking at the numbers. So we go over here and look at this. Like we said, Arsenal created 58 chances from cutbacks. They're focusing heavily on it, and that's why they're top of that table, they're top of the league. They've only scored 5. Man City might have perfected it. They've got 10 goals, 41, as we say, like Guardiola's Barcelona used to do this all the time. And you can see the focus of it. This is how much they're focusing on. Look where the ball's always going, slightly backwards, the cutback from Pro Evo or FIFA, everywhere you play. It's always in these areas here. And then you've got Gabriel Jesus, who might come in late to arrive in the box at the right time to be here. Nketiah tends to go more to the 6-yard box, so he doesn't score as many of these cutbacks. But that's why Odegaard and Xhaka, Martinelli, Saka arriving at the right place at the right time in the space between the lines of defence and in the box to score these goals. That's what they do. And it's interesting because Guardiola obviously has perfected this over time. At Barcelona, they used to do it always. They scored loads of goals like this. And then Arteta was obviously under Guardiola at City. And then when Arteta left for Arsenal, who came in? Juanma Lillo, who loves the cutback. This is what Juanma Lillo once said about it during the World Cup. He said this: "I used to say in Manchester that the last player to arrive in the box, the last player, is the first one to be able to shoot. I tell that to my strikers all the time. The closer you get to the goal, the further you are from scoring. Every team is so concerned about defending and controlling the spaces close to their goal, the one I showed you earlier, that there are now more threats from further away. And Arsenal have found an even more extreme way of getting further away to have a better chance of scoring. So teams obviously block this, and teams know about the cutback. They try and block it. It's often when they just can't get back into their shape in time that those opportunities arise. So this is Arsenal versus Aston Villa. As you can see, it's from a corner situation. And you've got Odegaard, you've got Saka, and you've got Zinchenko. Everyone's blocking this space here, making sure there's no runners getting into this area. Zinchenko is the main threat. And of course, you put the ball over to him here, and he's able to score. It's a really good hit. And you might think, well, that's a one-off. That's maybe lucky that he's managed to hit that through all these bodies by being in space, the edge of this box, while Villa block the centre of it. Well, I'll tell you that it's not. They've been doing this loads this season. So, playing against Spurs, and this is a game that was really difficult for Arsenal to break down Spurs for a long time. You see lots of bodies in the way, and Arsenal worked the ball over to the right-hand side. Now, when you get to this side here, Spurs know straight away they want to block this run into the box. They want to make sure he can't go past him. They want to make sure there's no way he can run to get this. So you go 2v1 versus Saka. So that's immediately making him not redundant, but he's not able to do what you want him to do. So the space is here. They've got no space between lines. You see the players running into the space that they want to create? These players are now blocked because Spurs are doing what you're supposed to do to stop this kind of goal. They're getting back into position. And so Arsenal have to wait. Saka can't play the pass he wants, has to go back to Ben White, and he does. Ben White then moves it on to Thomas Partey, and Thomas Partey is where the space suddenly is. And Arsenal have done this loads this season. So if you've got all players back in the box blocking, right, so we'll put people in like Odegaard and Saka, so this is what Spurs were doing very well. Now clearly there's just no way to get this ball into the box. You can't do it, so Saka couldn't get the ball in. But that does then create the space. Rather than being here for the cutback, it's instead here on the edge. And we've seen Arsenal do this a few times where they stick Partey into this position, knowing that there's going to be no one here. Because if you block this, the space naturally becomes further back. And so Partey then turns up and hits that beautiful shot into the top corner. And it's something that they look to have practiced because it's been repeated. So it's something that Arteta has looked for. Where is the space? How do we score? It's definitely going to be here. So they try and revise that. And the thing is, if teams then start trying to block the cutback and they don't pay attention to that, it's going to naturally leave someone like Nketiah at the front post to be able to do this, because then they're trying to block the cutback instead. Lots of options for how to score. Arsenal doing them all very well. And that is why Arsenal are flying at the top of the table, focusing on cutback goals, because they give you really good chances to score.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.